recording that I always forget is stopping it. So I can always edit off the end of it. All right, so I asked what people's disciplines were because everybody has kind of different needs a little bit in terms of the technology side of things. Let me ask another question. How many people are currently in possession of a drawing tablet of some kind? Ooh, like pretty close to a majority, great. And let me maybe better for my eyes, who doesn't have one of those? And of those people, is going to be thinking about doing it, or are you going to try and get through the class without it? Without. Okay. Other guys? Bearded gentlemen? All? What's the opinion? Going to go analog? Because I'll talk about an analog pipeline if necessary. Okay. So reasons not to do analog. It will come up here as we do. Luckily, last night I went, yeah, there's probably going to be some analog people. I should show you what happens when you do that. So I made some fake Back to the Future things here. I just did them on 3x5 cards, which are almost exactly 16x9. Just if you were to shave like a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch off the top, it would be perfect screen shape. So you can see that I didn't really necessarily go all the way to the edge, but you could crop them too. And then I just put a lamp over it and did a cell phone snap with it. Not as good as a scan, but pretty close. And I was hoping that my pencil would be thin and wispy, but it's actually reasonably solid, because I wanted to show one thing that you can do if you are going to go this route is to copy it to a new document here. So I just make a selection, Command-C to copy it, Command-N, which is going to make a new document, and Command-V to paste it on in so I can do a new one here. And then I just did Command-E to merge it down. This is Photoshop. Obviously, all the Adobe stuff you have. So my argument against analog is that every time you want to do a new pose, you have to also redraw the background. And keeping that consistent can be really tricky. What you might opt to do instead would be to draw only the figure on the card and then draw a separate card for the background if you're going to do a lot of shots where the pose needs to change. So if something like the story moment here was Doc tries to put the cables together and he can't reach it, starts with him wide, brings it close, and then you see the reaction that he can't get the cables together. That would be 3 panels of figure movement, but only one background. So might be a reason to do it that way, if only to keep the background looking consistent. When we view these in something like an animatic, if you see the 3 side by side, you might think the camera is moving or something if the background doesn't stay consistent. But this turned out reasonably good on the scan side. I've got a lot of paper texture, and the pencil is gray like it's going to be. So what you might choose to do to kind of tune these up a little bit is the following. In Photoshop, there's a thing called levels, which I always have to, I know the shortcut, I always have to look where it actually is. Image adjustments, oh, right up on top, levels there. So it's just Command-L. And you'll notice that we've got the black control here. We've got the white control here. So I could actually kind of blow it out to get that paper texture out. I could crunch in the black a bit to make it a little crispier. And, before and after, it's just a little, maybe it's more presentable. I don't know. I'm going to say yes to that just out of thought here, because I'm going to also add some tone, which will help to differentiate it from the background. And now you could tone with just the mouse if you had to. So I would make a new layer. And a while ago, and Troy may have these accessible to you on the what's called Canvas page, but I made some storyboard brushes. And these are, what do you call these? I can't, what's the shortcut? To zoom, I want to zoom. Well, you can see it. ABR there. Any .abr file is a storyboard or a Photoshop brush file. And you can import those by going like this. Let's see, we go B for brush. That's our brush tool. And we have the brush palette here. Sometimes it's docked, sometimes it's floating, so you might have to look around. If you can't see it, you're going to go to Window and find brushes in case it's missing. But you can load a new set of brushes by going to this very tiniest of, there's my zoom, yeah, Control. this little guy right here, and you'll be able to import brushes. So any .abr. So you can find any kind of brushes online. You might look for more natural media brushes or whatever makes it fun for you. But in this kit, I have a blue line, so for kind of doing roughs, super roughs. A pressure pen at 75%, so it's kind of good for general inking. The harder you press, the darker and thicker the line goes. But I also have one for straight lines and like a fill marker here. So I use this fill, and putting it on a new layer, like I could just go, let's put, now this is obviously it's blacking my character out, but I'm going to set that layer to, and I wouldn't use the mouse, but you could if you wanted. It's hard, but it works. Set that layer to multiply, and then you've got a little, kind of pulls the figure out from the background. You could do that with a bunch of different levels of gray too. I just have it set at kind of 75% gray. So if I wanted to lighten that up and do maybe some specific stuff in the background to make that easier to read, we could do that. Now obviously it's going to be easier for me to come in and let's say I wanted to do the cable. Let's go a little bit darker. Come in here with the tablet's always going to be easier. But that's, an analog pipeline that might work for you. If you do a bunch of layers, you just need to merge it back on down or not, because you can just export. Every time you want to send out a flattened one, you can just go export and export as PNG. I'm going to do that real quick here and put these in a new folder because I want to show you where the stuff would eventually end up. So I'll go BTTF1. Okay. That's my first panel. Done with it. I could save it as a PSD too. I probably shouldn't have thrown it out, but good enough for the demo here. So I'll copy the other one, copy new, clipboard, paste, merge it on down, just do quick levels. I won't bother. Well, let's do a little tone. Only take a second. New layer, set to multiply. Get that tone brush back up. And if I go to that brush again, the nice thing about the presets is that it will keep the original color. Keep the color, the size, the pen pressure, all of the settings are pre-built, so it's kind of ready to go. So this is supposed to be nighttime, so just come on in quick with deep dark in the back. We'll go with a little different color for the close-up stuff. Oh, by the way, I could just do this. Option fill. There we go. Option and delete gives us the foreground color. So if you have your light color selected, that'll fill with that color. If you have black selected, for example, option delete, it's going to fill it with black. That's a little too dark. So let's bring that back up to something more reasonable. And obviously, big Photoshop users, you guys know, the bracket keys make it bigger and smaller. So let's say it's very dark. We need a little storm clouds back there because it's supposed to be stormy. All right, there we go. Okay, merge it on down, export. And you don't have to export, you can also save as here, but I'm going to say this export thing is handy because when you get into like more of a timeline-based thing, you're going to have dozens or maybe even 100 stills, and it's just faster than flatten, save as, undo, move ahead, flatten, save as, because one of these days you might accidentally save and save over your layered document. You don't want to do that. Okay, so storyboard, and we said BTTF. I'm going to call that info 3 maybe. Okay, so I now have two PNGs. I can throw my scans out. I'm going to hide this real quick. Did you guys use the InDesign template for anything yet? Okay, yeah, some nods and some shaking of heads. Well, somebody's right. I made this a few years ago. It's a single 8.5 by 11 page with a 16 by 9 window times 4. I think there's a 6 and a 9 up as well, and those are available in case you want it. What I like about this is you can, with the text tool, put your shot description down here. And then these are what are called frames. So if you place, and the shortcut for place in InDesign is Command D, you can place them. Grab all of your stills, let's say there's 20 of them, select them all, Command D, and just go bump, 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 and just keep adding them. So let's just say I had 20 of them. I only have 2. Demo, it's a little slower. Let's go. So in InDesign, we've got pages here. This is a 1-page document. Let's say I need a few more. Let's say there's 20 pages, so I would need 5 sheets for 20 images. So I'm going to insert pages. I'm going to use my Storyboard master. I'm going to do 4 more pages, and now I've got 20 slots. So I'll show you the Command D here. Command D, go to my demo. It's Back to the Future. It's 3 and 2. They're named in order. I don't know what's wrong with 2. It says 0 bytes. Something didn't get finished. You know what? Yeah, or it actually didn't go into that folder. Let's try that too. All right, well, here's a quick fix. I go new, because it's still on the clipboard, paste, merge down, save as. I love their, so I want to PNG, keep it the same. This is Untitled 3, save as. It's going to write over it, right over that non-existing file. Should be good. Okay, Command D. Now 3 works and 2 doesn't. Okay, I'll just put it in once. That's okay. All right, so, oh, yep, that's the bad one. 3 is a good one. Okay, and just automatically fits to fill. So instead of coming in there with, that would have been something that's actually bigger than the page probably, and having to scale it and having to fit it. Now it's ready to go. If I had a dozen of those, I could just go Command D, pop, 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 drag ahead, pop, 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 and fill it really quick. So what's nice about that is the last part of it, the assembly part, which would be tedious, is the easiest part. So you've done all that hard drawing, and now it's just getting it on the page to turn in, because you can just send this out as a PDF. Fastest way to do that is File, Adobe PDF Presets, and I always do smallest file size because it's great for uploading to Canvas. It's nice and cheap. These will be like 1 megabyte files. If you do it wrong, they could be like 70 megabyte files, just because of resolution and things like that. So small file size is good for that. So that's one analog approach. The other, of course, would be to stick it on pieces of paper, scan it, draw directly on a piece of paper with boxes on it, scan it. I think that covers you for the storyboard side of things if you are using paper. Digital, let's say I'm in Photoshop. There are several ways to do it. One of them would be to use the template. So I could, we've got them as PDFs too, so I could just open it. And then as a PDF, it's going to ask what resolution do you want it at. And I will say, sure, 300. I'm going to go to RGB just in case I want to throw some color in there for some reason or another. And I'm going to crop to media instead of bounding box, because that'll give me an actual shape of the paper, I think. Yeah, there we go. So all that extra white space. With PDFs, it will look at the artwork and only open the art, so it'll go out to just the borders of the actual image itself. This is a little weird to look at when it's in Photoshop because it's the gray boxland background, so I usually make an extra layer, fill it with the white. Since that's my background color, Command on the Mac, delete. So Control delete for that top swatch, Command delete for the bottom swatch, fills. You can also use the bucket. Bucket, yeah. Anybody a bucket fan? Yeah. Anytime you don't have to go to the tools, it's a win for me, because that's, figure how many times per day you do that, and it's 5 minutes at the end of the day that you could be doing something else with. Shortcut for bucket is G, right? Which is also gradient. I always use the gradient more. So, okay, so we've got this. Maybe what I do is I go a new layer up here. Maybe I lock this one. How do you lock it anymore? Is it that guy or this?
On the bottom.
Bottom. Maybe I right click on it.
So scroll. It's just above the layer 3. Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Yeah. Sure. Okay, so that's my template. So now I can't screw that up. And if I'm going to get really noodly with it, maybe I'm going to make a group for every image. You know, if I'm going to have layers that are dedicated to one drawing. But what I might do is use my storyboard kit here. I'll do a blue line sketch and come in here and start laying in what I want. You know, I'm going to be super loose with it here because I just want to get the shape in. I'm not thinking hard about, I'm going to do a reverse shot, what the guy sees. What does he see? He sees a car. Bad at drawing cars, but we'll try it anyway. Okay, and there's his car. And then nice thing about this is I'm moving at the speed of thought instead of like, oh, I got to draw his ear. I got to make it perfect. Oh, I got to redo his ear. I just want to get the idea in, like super thumbnail. When I do it at for our shows, I do it right on the script, so I'm forced to do it at like 1.5 inches wide. So it's just a run of these little super thumbnails on the side, and that keeps you just the essence of the shot. You're not. It's not about drawing; it's about getting the idea across. All right, so a reverse shot, and then we cut back to the guy. I guess what's he doing? He's looking. He's concerned about the car, and I guess he walks towards the car. Maybe he's get that horizon in first. I like, you know, putting in like a grid or something can help you to build it in perspective. He's not concerned about the car. He likes the car. He wants to go to the car. Okay, so there he is walking. Okay, and then I could come back and grab my more refined brushes, bam, on a separate layer, start coming in and, you know, making it look like a thing instead of insane noodling. I'll again just do roughs here, but maybe we got to see where he's looking. That's pretty important to know. Let's say he's got a briefcase. Some bit of story going on here. And if I like that, let's say I take all of these guys, we'll put them in a group. So we've got that as a separate thing ready to go. I could turn this off when I'm done, the blue line stuff. I could also pop another guy in here and specifically come in with some fills, just to get a good separation from the background. Okay. So that's 4 up. You're forced to work a little small. But, you know, I can zoom in here and get things looking better. Might behoove me to do each shot on its own layer. But if I wanted to take this out to do an animatic in Premiere or something, it's going to be a lot of labor to get these images 4 on a page out to a single image for Premiere. You know, actually it wouldn't be bad, because what we could do is just go M for marquee and then go select the area, copy it to a new document, paste, save as. So that wouldn't be too bad. I'm going to show you the third way though. This is the way that I do it because it prepares me to start doing timing on it. So this is getting way ahead of ourselves, but eventually a final project in here is probably the Animatic, which is going to take all of your storyboarding knowledge, your layout, shot, beats, everything. It's all going to go into one, and it'll be played in real-time video so that you can choose how long those shots hold, which I think is the sort of the final decision-making process of storyboarding. Is I could stare at this shot for 10 minutes, but that's not realistic for the pace of maybe the movie we're going to make. Also, I could skim it and miss things. So the last part of control that we have as a sort of author, director, is to tell you how long we want you to look at a thing. We tell you what's important. Hey, look at this. And then we're going to say, we're going to look at this for 2 seconds. Oh, we're going to look at it for 4 because it's slightly more important. So let's see, I'm going to run down and make sure I've got things covered here. So we did the analog, paper, scanning it, putting it in InDesign. Adding tone, okay, good. Drawing in Photoshop. Different document per shot. That would be another way to go. So just start a new document, and you might do a 1080 preset. Do my drawing, save as 001. Do the next drawing, save as 002. Downside, I think, of that one is that you don't have that previous shot to look at, whereas over here I'm able to see the sequence a little bit. As I'm working, I go, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, okay. Oh, another reason not to do this is if I want to insert a shot, if I'm super lazy, I won't do it. Oh man, it's done, right? It's done. What if I really needed he grips his briefcase tighter, you know, that kind of hand roll thing that shows his, you know, fortitude. If I'm lazy, and this is a comics thing too, like if you have started your layout and you go, oh, I just thought of a panel I should have put in. Most of the students I know don't go back and put that panel in. They just bite the bullet and go, well, that's the story that came out when it did. But for us, like this is an iterative process. We want to stick something new in there. So I like to do them separate. I might go to A, to B, to C, and just keep inserting things in between that little gutter where I thought a new idea needed to be. Yeah.
Can you also have all your frames made on the same document in your layers?
That drives me nuts. Okay, so here's, yes, yet another. I can't do it because it drives me completely nuts. I see people do it. So you stack them, and shot 1 is way down at the bottom, and shot 85 is up at the top. If you're showing it to somebody, it's always, hang on, and they scrub through and try and figure out, okay, it's this one, no, it's this one. Yeah, I'm OCD, man, I can't, no. And then they turn them all on, and it's just, it's a nightmare of stacked transparencies. I don't know what's happening.
Oh yeah, but like you like export after you make every shot.
Right. So you turn off. Yeah, sure. If you'd like. Let me show you my favorite way, and then you might go like, oh, this is better. Because it does keep it in one document, but it goes horizontally instead of vertically. You still have that vertical stack because that's how Photoshop is set up, but you end up with this sort of organization level of this is before this, so it becomes really easy to look at it. So let's do that. I don't do it like that. And I sometimes do it like this. All right, the final Photoshop method is to use a timeline. This might be new to folks. You can actually animate in here. People do. It's not great for that, but under Windows you'll find timeline. There he is. And that puts down this new palette of stuff here that doesn't look like much yet, but you've got some playback tools, a cut tool, and a little drop down where there's going to be some stuff. So what I'll do is to create, we've got 2 options, frame animation and video timeline. I'll actually do a video timeline for this one. Nothing seems to have changed, but let's do that same guy arrives with the briefcase scenario, and we'll do one set of backgrounds for that shot so we can change his pose. So first I need a layer. Right now it's background and it's locked. So this has no time per se, and it has no information. First I'm going to unlock it. Say OK. Create video timeline. And you'll see that I now have layer 0, has its own sort of thing here. Layer 0 is also filled with white, so I got to keep that in mind. If I'm doing my background, which I could, let's just put a little something in. Blue line. Okay, so he has arrived. We had like a horizon. We had some kind of a building edge here. Let's put a porch back here or something. I'm not really thinking too well about this architecture here. Port's not that high. Okay. Maybe it's like a gas station. It's got a kind of awning or something. Gotta have the door here. Maybe there's a bench. It's like one of those kind of small town gas stations. really small. Signage there. Okay. And I might, just for kind of perspective planning, throw in a bit of a grid. Okay, I'm going to do a new. Let's just line that pretty quick here. I'll show you my other. Why is that? This is it. I got a straight line. I like using this for doing architecture stuff. So straight line doesn't have a fade on it. So if you do shift and click, shift, click, shift, click, click, shift, click, boom, you're getting these nice straight lines. Much better than my drawing. And I can take my time a little bit better, but I get the idea here. So just a shift, I click and I shift click. Click, shift click, and that gets me straight line. Okay, so this definitely needs some tone to make this make more sense. But pretty good start. Stick my horizon in there and maybe call it good. Throw a little tone in quick. All right, since this is background, I'm going to plan ahead. I want to have my figure be this value. So I'm going to make my background be a brighter value just to kind of make it easier to read. Get that size up. I also stick this behind. See, it's actually got a little red in it. So I'll drag it down below. And this one might shift and click too. Let's see. Kind of. All right. Now let's let that go to. Yeah, let's let it all go to. Okay. Coloring, my favorite part. All right. So let's say that's my background. Right now it's 5 seconds long. I tell you what, I will group those. I can always come back in and, like, if I want to get rid of my blue line, I can do that. It's not too offensive to me right now. How long do we want that shot to hold? Let's call it, actually, let's go 8. So one thing to think about early on is how, when this plays back, if we want it to play back, and we don't have to, we treat it as just like a way to organize the stuff left to right. But playback, we don't want to, 30 frames per second is overkill. We don't want to actually do that noodly an animation on it. So we're going to go and set the timeline to be something like 12 frames per second. There it goes. Say OK. And that's going to just make us have to do less drawings. I can drag this out. I said 8, so let's go to about 8. It's okay if it's not quite right. Did it get it? Okay. So what it's not doing is it's not letting me do that in the group. I need to actually twirl it down, and I've got all these pieces of art here, and that's what's going to get dragged out. 8:11, it's fine. That's kind of a long shot. I may find myself changing my mind, but I'm going to label it gas station. Guest. Well, there's extra letters in there. And I could label these too, but that's fine. So now I want to put in his pose. In fact, let's have him come on screen and do a little left-right look. That's maybe overkill for a storyboard, but it's nice for an animatic. So maybe for the storyboard, I'll just put in the before and after. He's not there, he is there, and the reader will assume, okay, he's entered. But when we view that as an animatic, we might want to have him kind of an ABC, like let's see him get to the point. So one drawing, no guy. Next drawing, guy coming in. Third drawing, guy is there. So we'll just do the guy is there bit. This will get its own layer. Notice that it went exactly where I put my cursor. It's kind of in the middle of that shot. So I'm going to back it up. And it's going to be a still, so it doesn't matter where in the timeline now that I draw, as long as I'm drawing on layer 3. I'll go to my blue line guy again, and he's going to be right about there in his final position. He's got kind of a long torso there. Sorry. If I tap my second button, which I have the habit of doing, brings up that. Okay, so maybe his feet are about there. All right. So with time, I could refine that. I'll just give him a quickie here. I think the nice thing about that blue line is it doesn't matter. You just relax. It's going fine. Take your time. You can always come back and do this line stuff later. All right, let's get that briefcase looking good in perspective. Okay, pretty good. Let's give him a fist. He's a man of action. What's he wearing? He's a suit. He's a suit guy. A little bit. Okay, it's a skinny suit. Okay, so that's pose one. Notice I moved my line so you can see what this actually would do if I were to hit play. I've got 2 seconds of no line and some seconds of line, but it's a video. Now I'm going to save it because I always screw things up. Guy arrives. Okay. So I definitely want to go like this. And if I like aspects of this, but I want to change a little bit of it, I can probably throw out my blue line. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so let's say I want him to just do a head turn. I can, let's test the timing here. He arrives, boom, he looks. Okay, so right there he's looking. I'll do a split. Okay, now it's on a new layer, starting right at that point where I cut. So if I eraser and make sure I'm on a layer, you got to pick one because it had both selected. Go back to B. I'll have him look up. Okay, so now I've got the essence of motion. He's arrived, looks up. Maybe right there we cut to the sign. So let's just do it for timing here. One, pause. Okay, so I'm going to just cut. And cut and just delete that top one because I'm going to cut to a new shot. Delete that. And that means I can do all of these guys to be shorter than I thought. Let's see, can I do it with the group? Yeah, nope. So it's always, the group's timing is always based on the length of the layers inside. Okay, shot one. I suppose, I wonder if I can group groups. Shot of one. Okay, shot of one encompasses panel one and panel two. Panel one is this guy, panel two is that guy. So that's all self-contained, it's super organized. And now as I scrub by here, I just know that that's a shot and the next one will go right there. Okay, so let's zoom in. And I think we need to make a new layer. I believe if we go bang, yeah, picks it right up from there. The downside is it does overlap by a frame because I was poised on that frame. Oh, that's actually right. Okay, so my next background goes into layer 5. That's going to be, let's call it sign. The guy's not going to be in this shot, so maybe I just go ahead right away and I'll fill this with white. I'll not even bother blue lining it because it's just going to be a bit of architecture. So there's the sign. Right, it's big block letters up there, gas. And he's not actually looking at the thing, he's looking at a bird. No, what's he looking at? A spider web. No? A snake. What could be right here? Give me something. Ooh, a bat. Yeah. It's like somewhere between a snake and a spider, right? So, well, because it's an animal that can hang. That's what I'm thinking. So it's right there. There he is. Okay. So, guy arrives. What the fuck is that spider? What was that bat doing there? Right? And so the story folds. How long is that shot? 1, 2, 3, maybe 2.5. So 3 to 5, somewhere in there. We'll trim it. And then we put in our next shot. We could just call that shot 02. Now the downside is if I put an insert in, I don't want to go back and renumber everything. So when I worked on a show for Amazon Studios, it was an animated show, the rule for renumbering, if you want it, they sat down for the first time and they went, okay, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's 350 shots in the show. And then you give it to Amazon, they come back with notes, okay, you need to insert something here between 15 and 16. So go 15A, B, C, D, E, until you run out of, like, okay, we're done with that idea, back to 16. So 16 stayed put, 15 expanded, and it was fine. If you went past 26 images for it, shots, which we never did, it would go to AA. So 15AA, 15AB, 15AC, 15A, and you could go into infinity, like there could be a whole new movie submitted between shot 15 and shot 16. So if you need to do that, that's the thing. So guy looks up, guy sees what the hell, new shot. This will be a down angle on him looking up at it. So for this, all I need is, let me see here. So I want to advance one frame. Yeah, I guess I do have to, they do have to butt against each other, otherwise you'll see overlap. Just make sure that that's in there. Okay, layer 5 needs a background. Let's go bam. I'm going to just put in a grid in blue just so we have an idea of how high we are. Okay, I'll put my dude next. Let's see. Nope, I need him lower. He's looking almost at camera there. All right. It's not quite on grid, but it's a good, well, you know, he's not on grid enough. I'm going to back up. So I like the grid because if you think about drawing angles is really hard, right? We tend to view people at eye level, so we're really good at drawing straight in. I can see you guys, because I'm higher, I can look down at you, I can see tops of laps and tops of shoulders that I wouldn't see if you were standing up. So the grid like this can help me if I use it right to sort of place, think of him as a box in space, right? And pillars in space, they're going down into space, and he's going to look up. So he's looking up like that. And I can just, this is a little boxy, I can lay him in like that. So if you can draw a box in 3D, you can eventually get a guy in 3D. It's a little harder. Not a great one, but I also want this a lot closer, but I don't know, that's kind of Hitchcocky, being far away like that. Let's stick with it. Okay. Let's see, 5, 6, 7 are all a group, so we can go group. And let's watch what we got. Okay. So if I'm ready to export that, I guess I've got 4 images so far, 1, 2, 3, and 4 to put out. I would probably want my background to be consistent in tone, so that lets me know we haven't changed the location or the time hasn't changed. So I'm going to sample my gray with the eyedropper. Come back over to group 1 here, and I'm just going to fill with that background gray. That's that one. I'm kind of regretting losing the grid there. Let's go back. Grid is really actually telling a bit of story that I need. So I'm going to option fill and set that to multiply, and then I got my grid back. Okay. Okay, so exports. Let's do them quick. File. Export PNG. We're going to do this right this time. How are we going to do it? This looks like the place it's going. I must have, PNGs have like a confirmation. I probably just skipped the confirmation on that. So guy arrives 01, hang. Let's go check. I don't believe it. Guy arrives, see how that works. Also nice and tiny, 267, not bad. Okay, back here, I would go to the second panel, pose, file, export, and there's not a shortcut for this. So it's a little tedious, but I'll show you how to put out the movie too, which is more fun. This would need the shading too, the same color as the building. So I want to get around to that. Export, binge, 3. If you were to bring these into After Effects, it would be a 1-frame animation, so they'd go by in a 1/5 of a second or something. So you want to make sure they come in as stills. Last one, export. PNG 04. Okay. Now I do believe I can show you the trick I wanted to show you. Let's make sure they're in there as things. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to InDesign. Open up my template. Say okay, that's fine. These will all fit on one page. Zoom out so you can see it. Command D. Select them all. Go. And hopefully it'll put it in order. I saw that it was in backwards order, but let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I can export. Let's do that just so you can see how cheap it is. Smallest file size. Desktop bit. Storyboard demo. Guy arrives. Unless you have hyperlinks or anything in here, there's nothing to change there. It's mad about my lack of font. And I've got some weird transparencies, but does its thing in the background. I go over here, guy arrives, PDF. It's 52 kilobytes in size, itty bitty, but printable. And if I had a lot of those, which I would if I took more time, we could have the whole book, right? Again, making changes here. We got to pick stuff up and move it. A little tedious. Maybe you want to export it at the last minute. It's sort of like, I think it's locked. But the nice thing about this being in Photoshop is if we want a new shot in between here, we just go new shot. We slide these guys down. I think we can shift click and grab them together. We can order them too, so they go up on top. So there's a little bit more of a logical hierarchy here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they'll go into infinity or until you get bored of that shot. Okay, I'll stop the recording. Remember to do that. And then